and welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Rabbi Finn and you are here for another Shemot snacks from Borwood and Elstree United Synagogue. This week is Parshat Terumah and I'm filming this on Friday the 12th of February 2021 and it's absolutely freezing outside. In fact, the weather prediction for tomorrow for Shabbat is going to be -1 degrees Celsius. So I thought, what better to make than cholent? Why? Because cholent is the most amazing, or I can't really call it a snack. It's a perfect meal for Shabbos. A perfect, gloopy, sticky cholent, the kind that sticks to your insides and sends you into a cholent-induced Shabbat shluch. That is what I'm speaking about. The perfect, thick, yummy cholent. So let me show you how we're going to make it. I'm going to make it to a 6-litre normal size slow cooker. But one thing I should say about slow cookers is every single slow cooker is different. Everyone, even if it's from the same brand, they all seem to cook ever so slightly differently. So I'm going to show you from mine, which is a really rubbish, cheapy, £15, if that, slow cooker that I got a number of years ago. And this works for me. If it doesn't work for you, if it burns or something, just adjust it a couple of times. Trust me, this is a brilliant recipe. You want to give it a go. So let me start off. I'm going to start off with 1.5 kilos of potatoes. This is a simple cholent. For me, cholent contains 4 ingredients: potatoes, meat, barley, onions, and spices. The spices are not really ingredients, they're just, so it's 4 items, plus obviously water. No carrots, no funny vegetables, no, none of that funny stuff. Just keep it simple and trust me, it's going to be amazing. So, get about 1.5 kilos of carrots and you just want to cut them into basically roast potato size. You know, this is roughly the size of the carrot you want to, potato you want to put in. As I'm cutting this, let me tell you about this week's portion. This week's portion marks the shift in the book of Shemot, in the book of Exodus. We're no longer really telling the story of the Jewish people in terms of the travelling out of Egypt to Mount Sinai and giving the laws. We are now speaking about something called the tabernacle, the Mishkan. At the beginning of this week's portion, we are introduced to this concept of this Mishkan, of this tabernacle, which is later going to turn into the Beit HaMikdash, the temple in Jerusalem. And God at the beginning tells Moshe, "V'yichuli Terumah, tell the people to gather for me an offering, a gift." This is the first charity campaign in history. I don't know about you, but there's been a number of really good, wonderful match-giving campaigns in our community over the last few months in the Jewish community here in London. But this is the first one. God says to everybody, gather and give whatever you can. And as we're going to read in a number of weeks' time, the Jewish people are so generous that actually Moshe has to put a stop to the generosity and say, actually, guys, we've got enough. Thank you so much. But we start off with that call to action, that call to donate money. The rest of the portion is dedicated to telling us about the different vessels that would go inside the Mishkan, and most of these do end up in the Beit HaMikdash in Jerusalem. The menorah, we are introduced to the menorah, we're introduced to the show tables, we're introduced to the altar. But the best one that we are introduced to is the Aron HaKodesh, the Ark of the Covenant. If you want to know what it looks like, we'll go into Google the Ark of the Covenant. It is beautiful. It was this golden structure from the outside, which had 2 cherubim, 2 cherubs on top, and inside it was going to hold the Aseret HaDibot, the 10 Commandments, and then over the course of the next 40 years, various other items are added as a permanent reminder to the Jewish people. Let me just finish off potatoes, then I'll tell you about what is so special about this ark. So the potatoes cover the entire bottom of my cholent. I might have even added a tiny bit too much because I think I've got more than 1.5 kilos of potatoes, but I love potatoes. You basically want the entire bottom of your cholent pot to be covered with potatoes. Into there, you're going to add 2 onions. Just simply roughly slice the onion. You don't want to slice them too small, otherwise it's going to be completely disintegrated. But just throw them into the pot. So where was I? The ark. The ark was interesting because if you look inside this week's portion, we're told that the ark is made up of 3 key materials: gold, wood, and gold. It was golden on the inside, then there was a layer of wood, acacia wood I think, and then there was another layer of gold on the outside. And the question is why? Why not just make the whole thing golden? This is the Ark of the Covenant. This is holding the Ten Commandments. This is going to be situated in the Kadosh Kodashim, the holies of holies. Surely, if anything deserves to be completely golden, it should be that. Now, before you tell me that this was a travelling ark and therefore it needed to be movable, and if you made it completely golden, it would be too heavy to lift. Well, let me tell you, it was already too heavy to lift. According to tradition, the people who lifted the ark were actually being lifted by the ark. So it's got nothing to do with trying to keep the weight manageable of the ark. I'm going to leave the question hanging as I start to put in my first bit of meat. We're going to be putting in a total of 1 kilogram, but we're going to be putting it in 2 batches, and you're going to see why in a moment. So I'm using what is called in the butcher, thankfully and helpfully, Cholent Meat, but in most places it's going to be flankered. And this meat is perfect because it is so fatty, and all that fat is going to melt and create beautiful, beautiful flavour. You can see I'm not cutting my meat. I'm literally putting a block of meat, get rid of the paper, a block of meat into the pot. And on top of that, I'm going to start adding my flavours. But let me tell you the reason why it had gold and wood, both gold on the inside and gold on the outside. The first reason is because if it was just golden, that doesn't give a great message, because gold is hard, it is inflexible, it doesn't live, it's never lived. Wood lives, it came from a tree, it came from a living produce. Wood represents the Eitz Chaim, the fact that the Torah is a tree of life. And so we need both this balance of gold and this wood in there to teach the importance of how we should live our lives. We should live our lives as golden, but also we should be constantly trying to grow. It's constantly trying to grow like the tree of life, like the tree that the wood came from. That's the first reason. Second reason is going to come in a moment once I've started to add some of my ingredients. We're going to start off with some chicken stock mix. I want to put in 2 gesunte tablespoons, and good luck to Avi, who's editing this video, is translating that into instructions, but 2 gesunte tablespoons of chicken stock powder. On top of that, I'm going to add 1 beef stock cube. If you don't have any beef stock cubes, either go for a 1/3 gesunte tablespoon of stock powder, or go for a tablespoon of beef stock powder. Ideally crush it up, but it doesn't really matter, just throw it in there. So we've got 2 tablespoons of chicken stock powder, a beef stock cube. We're going to add in 1, again, gesunte tablespoon of normal paprika. Just spread it all around. Make sure it is going on top of the meat, it's going on top of the potatoes. We'll go for gesunte, so it doesn't really matter if you decide to go back in for a bit more. We're going to add in 1/2 tablespoon of smoked paprika. This just adds something to the flavour. If you don't have any smoked paprika, make up to 2 full tablespoons of normal paprika. I want to add in 2 tablespoons of honey. Just spread it all around. This is going to give it that beautiful balance. And I like to add in about 1/2 tablespoon, but you can add in more, of cumin. So, to recap, in there we've got stock powder, paprika, cumin, we've got in honey, and now we're going to add in 3 tablespoons, roughly, of tomato puree. And before I add in anything else, let me tell you the other reason why it's got to be gold, wood, gold. And that is to teach us a message. But often we try and project ourselves as golden people, and we show the entire world that we're good people, we're gold people. But inside we're not golden. Inside we are, we're not as good as when we are in private. We don't live up to that same picture that we project to the outside world. The message is that actually we are supposed to, in our private moments, when nobody else can see us, be just as golden as we try and project to the outside world. It's not just good being gold on the outside, we also need to be good on the inside. Obviously, if you're not able to be good on the inside, you should still try and be good to the outside world, but the ideal is to be both golden, both inside and outside. In fact, if you look at this week's portion and look at some of the commentaries, there's loads of fascinating insights into how to live our lives that are derived from the different vessels of the tabernacle. Now I know you've still got the question, why on earth am I doing cholent? What on earth has cholent got to do with this week's portion? Well, I'm going to keep you hanging on that whilst I finish off my cholents. The first is going to be that second part of my meat. Remember, we're adding in 1 kilo of meat. In truth, you could get away with 700 grams of meat, you could get away with 500 grams. You could even try this vegetarian. I've never tried a vegetarian, so I can't vouch that it's going to be as good as the meaty version. But to be honest, I don't see why it wouldn't work. It just won't have that depth of meaty flavour. But if you are vegetarian, that's probably not what you are after. So, get that second bit of meat into the pot, proving slightly more difficult. Just move it around. And now to add in, you would like to add in 1.5 cups of barley. You heard me, 1.5 cups of barley. Just get my cup measurements out. That might seem like a lot, but this barley is going to it's going to melt down. That's probably the only way to describe it. It completely loses its structure. I'm using pearl barley, and you really don't need to worry because over 25 hours, it is literally going to break down. And this is what makes cholent or this cholent so mushy and so bone-stickingly good. So that's 1 cup, and then the 1/2 cup of barley. You don't need to pre-soak your barley. You don't need to do anything to your barley. Just try and make sure it is covering all of your potato and onion. Add in 1 tin of red kidney beans. Obviously get rid of the juice, but 1 tin of red kidney beans. If you like more, you can add in more. In truth, with anything, if you like more meat, add more meat. If you really do want to add in carrots, you can, but remember that carrots are adding an element of sweetness to this dish, and I'm trying to get that perfect balance between sweet and savoury. And that's it. That is all the ingredients that need to go in, except for the water. And this bit's really, really important because actually what matters most is the water to barley ratio. So we've added in 1.5 cups of barley, which means we're going to add in 5 or potentially 6 cups of boiling water. And as I do that, let me finally answer the question, what on earth has cholent got to do with this week's portion? Well, cholent is the ultimate Shabbos dish for many, many people. Why? Because we're not allowed to cook on Shabbos, so people will make this dish, like I'm doing on a Friday, and leave it in a slow cooker, and as long as it's cooked enough by the time Shabbat starts, it can continue slowly finishing off over the rest of Shabbat. That was 3, let me not lose count, 4, and actually I'm going for 6 cups in the end. Cholent is the ultimate Shabbos dish. I'm just making sure that all the barley is submerged in the water. Everything else will fall into the water later. Put the lid on. I'm going to cook this on high for about 4 or 5 hours and then turn it to low to cook until I eat it on Shabbat afternoon. And obviously after Shabbos I will show you a bowl of the leftovers, because trust me, there is going to be some leftovers. There's way too much cholent for one person to eat here. But why am I making cholent for this week's portion? Well, cholent, as I said, is the ultimate Shabbos dish. It is this beautiful dish which lots of people enjoy on Shabbos. In a couple of weeks' time, we're going to be told about the laws of Shabbat. We're also going to be reminded or told to go build this Mishkan, to go build this tabernacle. And the rabbis say that the fact that the 2 laws, the laws about building the tabernacle and the laws about Shabbat, or this, the requirement to keep Shabbat, are juxtaposed, are next to each other, says that anything that was done to build the tabernacle is prohibited to be done on Shabbat. So this week, when we launch the tabernacle into the Jewish consciousness, the Mishkan into the Jewish consciousness, it makes sense to do something which is so related to Shabbat, because everything that was done to build that tabernacle and to build all the vessels of the tabernacle is prohibited on Shabbat. I will show you after Shabbos a bowl of this goodness. It's going to look, well, to be honest, it's going to look like cholent, but trust me, I'm so excited for this. I hope you give it a go, and I will see you after Shabbos. Hello, welcome back to my kitchen. It's now Motzei Shabbos. I've had the most amazing Shabbos, very cold, but I got to enjoy my wonderful cholent. Now I need to tell you 2 things I forgot. I forgot 2 ingredients when I was recording the cholent in my excitement, but they're not crucial, so if you don't put them in, it's not the end of the world. But I like to throw in a good few grinds of pepper, and also some cloves of garlic. Now, as you can see, the pot is soaking behind me, but I managed to batch up some of the leftovers, and let me show you, there's some kishkaval added in here. This is what I mean, super beautiful, thick cholent. It was incredible. If it is this cold again, make my cholent. Trust me, you will not regret it. I hope you have the most amazing week. Shabbat Shalom.